Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar this evening. My name is Dr. Stephen Moore. I'm the founder of MD Solution as well as Get Healthy USA. And it's good to be here with everybody. I live in Jupiter, Florida, and we've got a really great speaker here tonight. And what we're going to be talking about is the role of nutrition in eye care and the functional, molecular, and structural changes that take place in the disease process, and how nutrition can help play an important role in preventing and managing it. We've got alarming rates of not just eye disease, but also chronic disease in America. And optometry plays such an important role in not just the prevention and management of eye disease, but the impact that you can make on patient health is very significant when we start to talk about the role of nutrition. And supplements are one of those things that most people are taking to try and be proactive with their health. It's a very, very confusing and fragmented market for your patients, and people are really confused. And as their optometrists or ophthalmologists, there's a lot of guidance that you can provide as some simple approaches to help your patients not only keep their eyes healthy, but also the rest of their body, and give them better directions on what supplements that they should be taking. This opportunity with some new technologies also provides a really incredible opportunity for optometry, because the supplement market is a $50 billion market just here in the United States, and optometry has a huge opportunity here to redirect patient spending and really empower patients to do it better. They've already made the decision to take supplements for not just eye disease, but all kinds of other ways of improving their health. And there's some new technology that's been developed originally for eye disease by the NIH, and then it was expanded to a lot of other applications in healthcare. And we've got an incredible guest speaker here that's going to talk about the role of nutrition in eye care, Dr. Caldwell. And for many of you probably know Dr. Caldwell. He's one of the top 5 speakers and key opinion leaders in the world of optometry. I think, Greg, you're probably speaking at 30, 40, 50 talks a year. I know that you own Optometric Education Consultants, your partner, where you guys put on 6 conferences a year. You're the co-founder of OCT Connect, and really an expert in the management of eye disease as well as the imaging of the eye. And it's been great getting to learn more about the role of nutrition working with you over the last year or so. And thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're going to be doing nutrition and eye care, the connection between function, structure, and molecular imaging or molecular changes. As Stephen mentioned, I've focused my career in ocular disease and using technology to be able to treat ocular disease or find ocular disease. And now it's been fun using the molecular side or the nutritional side of things out there. So I want to thank everyone for this opportunity. This cartoon really hit home to me when I saw it. Is, we have the leader out here saying, can't you see we have no time for them? We have a battle to fight. And, please, I really think we should consider what they're offering us. And I think tonight, after you see that, you'll see how this cartoon, why it really hit home for me. So when it comes to patient care, patients are expecting wellness, prevention, and early detection that's out there. I'm learning that from being in patient care, that when you bring it up, patients really want guidance, and really that's not even wanting it, that they're more or less expecting it now that's out there. And when it comes to this talk tonight, you're going to see a common theme. You're going to see me talk about chronic and low-grade inflammation. You're going to see me focus on the mitochondria, because the mitochondria, we learned back in biology, is those organelles are the powerhouses of the cells. And really, we can see this with our imaging now. I just don't think a lot of us realize that that's what we're seeing on an OCT image that's out there. Or maybe even with some functional testing, maybe that's why, dark adaptation, those mitochondria are being robbed of nutrition. So, science has proven that chronic low-grade inflammation can turn into a silent killer that contributes to cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, diabetic retinopathy, cataracts, macular degeneration, and the list goes on, and many others. As you can see here, I have a little graph of life expectancy versus health expenditure, and you can just see here how the United States is becoming an outlier with a spend of about 74 years old being about $3,000, jumping just a few years later up to $10,000, and you can see compared to other countries. United States, this is the reason why the United States gets thrown under the bus for their chronic or preventative type of conditions. We're really good at acute care, right? If someone has an ACL injury or needs bypass surgery or stroke care, we lead the world in that arena. But you can see here, this chronic preventative care is why we get tossed under the bus quite often. Yeah, chronic and low grade, part of that, part of the discussion tonight, like cancer and other slow burn diseases. That's really what I want to point out, is that they're out there, they're slow, they're burning, and we need to identify these conditions early and make a difference between full recovery or dramatically reduce the quality of life or even death. So we see what happens is, to kind of turn it over to eye care. These slow burn leads to, cancers and pulmonary disease and diabetes and arthritis and Alzheimer's. But for us, it would be vision loss or blindness. And this here is a slide. I took a few functional medicine. I went to a conference called A4M, and it's talking about aging and performance and vitality. And you can see what's leading off here is oxidative stress and inflammation, which is what we're going to key on tonight. And you'll hear patients come in and they're talking about, getting their hormones and their stress hormones, the cortisol, and fixing their insulin resistance. And you're hearing a lot about the gut microbiome and then how this all ties into an immune balance. So, it's a fine balance out there, and oxidative stress is one big part of it. One of the words I've learned out there is inflammaging, but really, it's a long drawn out definition here. But what I want to point out here is we're focusing on, you're going to hear me talk about the mitochondria. And in the second paragraph, it says, these data indicate that the DNA mitochondria may promote and produce a pro-inflammatory cytokine as in aging. And you can see and go up to that top paragraph just at the very end there, pro-inflammatory cytokines, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin-6, interleukin-1. You can see these are all things that are very familiar when it comes to ocular surface, dry eye, the cascade of inflammation in the retina. And it's getting this term called inflammaging, but again, it's going back to the mitochondria. And you'll see here that the mitochondria is always the key of focus when it comes to vitality and chronic disease and aging. And when you have exposure and damage from the environment and these toxins and then these free radicals that form, then we get damage to the mitochondria. So I thought this was pretty interesting, where there's been a lot of focus, nutraceutical-based immunotherapeutic concepts to try and protect the mitochondria. And here we have resveratrol. You're going to hear me mention resveratrol quite a few times. Why aren't we focusing on this type of nutraceutical heavily in eye care? You're going to see it's a natural VEGF that plays an important role in diabetic retinopathy and in age-related macular degeneration. And then you see the ECGC here, which is the catechins that are found in green tea. You're going to see me focus on quercetin. We know about fish oil. And then folding back in there's some of those probiotics to, help that gut microbiome that's out there. Here's another one study, the micronutrient supplement to increase CD4 count and really trying to help out with the mitochondria. And you can see here that this is going to kind of parallel what we're seeing in LifePak that I like to use as the foundation for patient care and keeping it simple when it comes to treating and helping the patient nutritionally. Another word that's out there is metaflammation, also known as inflammaging and the metabolism induced inflammation. So this one's called metaflammation. But again, I want to focus on that second bullet point here where it says chronic low grade inflammatory sequela. And then we get into this diabesity that's out there. And this is from James Lavelle whenever I attended the A4M conference. But we see here that metaflammation, again, lifestyle, smoking, nutrition, drug use, pollution, again, free radicals leading to obesity, metaflammation. And then if you look right in the center here, an example, oxidative stress, leading to these chronic diseases that are out there. And again, metaflammation, you can see this leads to, again, down here in this lower, right-hand corner, we have the mitochondria function. You can see insulin resistance, and then how all this kind of plays into ocular disease that we're going to talk about here very shortly in the next few slides. So what is the inflammaging and the metaflammation that occurs when we talk about eyes? Well, it would be dry eye, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, and macular degeneration. That's probably the bridge that we're most familiar with. And we're using things like omegas in dry eye, and in diabetic retinopathy and AMD and glaucoma. Maybe we're dabbling in using nutrition, but maybe we can step our game up since we're understanding this a lot better now. So here's just a study here that I pulled, and there's, you could Google all this and search and PubMed it and Google Scholar all this stuff. But this is just one I picked where the potential of oxidative stress, there's free radical formation on the ocular surface. And you can see here that, reactive oxygen species right in the center here at the top of this diagram, which are free radicals, and how we need antioxidants. And if we don't have them, we can end up with tissue damage, DNA, lipids. There's your meibomian gland dysfunction. We got proteins. We can have cytokines now. We can have cell death. But look over here. My keep going back. And I told you tonight that's going to be the chronic and low-grade inflammation, how it damages lipids and proteins and enzymes, and now mitochondria, leading to now things like dry eye disease, meibomian gland, loss to the lacrimal gland, inflammation to the ocular surface, expression of certain molecules that are out there. Chronic and low-grade inflammation, the crosstalk between oxidative stress and ocular disease. And we have endogenous sources. Just breathing can cause these free radicals to form, or these reactive oxygen species that are out there. Mitochondrial electron transport chain, that creates free radicals. And then jumping over to the exogenous, and there's really lots of external, like smoking and pathogens and pollutants and UV, leading to, again, free radicals, leading to oxidative stress. Cells respond, and then you end up with cell damage. Now, how does that turn out to be? Coming into this article, it's talking about the trabecular meshwork, cytoskeleton collapse, and trabecular meshwork contractile dysfunction. And what we know is that there's a lot of antioxidants in the aqueous. We just don't talk about it a lot. And if we don't have if we measure someone's carotenoid level with the scanner that we're going to talk about tonight, if they're low in the hand, it's been proven that they're low in the macular pigment. It's most likely that they're low in the anterior chamber, and that leads to retinal ganglion cell loss. We talked about the trabecular meshwork and optic nerve head remodeling, and in a sense, glaucoma and all the different pathophysiologies that are occurring with that disease. Jumping over to diabetic retinopathy, the endothelial cell loss or death, which then leads to the microvascular changes or the microaneurysms and the leaking that occurs in diabetic retinopathy from that capillary loss that's out there. And this is a slide just from the Aries slide deck, from the Repressa slide deck. I'm a speaker for them. And I didn't alter this slide, I just pulled it right out and just showing that they had disease at the trabecular meshwork is responsible for elevated IOP. And they're showing with this picture here, this high magnification of the trabecular meshwork jumping over, and you can see how aged and damaged this cytoskeleton of this trabecular meshwork. But look at the word that they used in between here: cellular damage, oxidative stress that's out there. Can we benefit by putting patients on something like LifePak and treating the full eye and giving the eye and stacking that deck in the favor for the eyeball? Here's a 64-year-old man with diabetes, and the B scan OCT doesn't look too bad, but remember, diabetes is a capillary disease. So when we use an OCT angiographer here and we start looking at the foveoavascular zone in this patient's right eye, it doesn't look too bad. If you look at it, it's round, maybe a little bit of dropout, little dropout up in this area, maybe some dropout down here. But when you jump to the left eye, definitely convinced that there's oxidative stress, capillary damage, picking up on microaneurysms and capillary dropout. And this would be a great time to introduce the whole network of antioxidants, just not the two that we're familiar with. Lutein and zeaxanthin are extremely important. Plenty of studies out there. Certainly the highest density in the body for a certain reason, but they're only in the inner retina. And then when we really focus on what catechins can do and quercetin, and then on top of it, resveratrol with its natural anti-VEGF, it just makes perfect sense that we can really support this condition by having a full, complete antioxidant network. And that gets supported here with some of the work. Paul Chouse, colleague of ours, is really dedicated and put his career towards diabetes, him being a diabetic himself and having vitrectomies and so on and so forth. And he talks open about it. And then we have Stuart Richer here, who is the founder of the Optometric Wellness and Nutritional Society, and Jeffrey Gerson here, who works in a retina clinic. And we can see here that they did a study and they were showing the pathways that contribute to diabetic retinopathy: growth factors, hypertension, which is adding fuel to the fire, dyslipidemia, that hormone imbalance that we talked about, right, with the insulin resistance or true diabetes, but then cortisol and maybe some thyroid hormones adding into there. But look what's right in the center: oxidative stress, creating that inflammation, that low, slow grade burn that's out there. Not like a traumatic inflammation where you get that swelling, but just that low grade burn that's there all the time. And then on this side, you can get the apoptosis. And what they were showing here is things like, alpha lipoic acid, which you'll see is in LifePak, and how it mitigates diabetic retinopathy. And this is in an animal model, but then as you go down the line here, blocks capillary cell apoptosis and then improves retinal capillary. And how about this one? Reduces VEGF, the vasoendothelial growth factor. The alpha lipoic acid does that, along with vitamin D3, and dropping down in here, grapeseed extract. And then you'll have resveratrol as one of those. And you can see, so does lutein and zeaxanthin. Again, important, but just not the only two that's the holy grail. Again, I believe in lutein and zeaxanthin, plenty of studies that are out there, but you can see that you start getting some synergism occurring. 1 + 1 will equal 3 here in this case, when you start layering on all the different antioxidants that are out there. So you can see here, this is why I get excited when I, see a formula here that has been vetted by 75 scientists in 13 different disciplines. I don't have to really get into the weeds. They've looked at all the different forms of vitamin E, and I think there's like 8 forms that are out there, and they picked the right one because it has to go into this formula and play nicely, and to be able to be on the shelf long enough, and to be able to penetrate and be able to do what it's supposed to do. So I don't have to worry about that when there's 75 scientists in 13 different disciplines that are with Pharmanex. But you can see we have a nice network of vitamins, and then we move over here to some minerals with selenium, copper, and zinc. But where I get really excited is when I start seeing this full network of carotenoids along with polyphenols and flavonoids. The carotenoids tend to treat that inner retina, and when we talk about polyphenols and flavonoids, we like to be in that outer retina, and you're going to see that's where a lot of the disease occurs. Again, that same theme tonight: chronic and low grade inflammation from oxidative stress in the posterior ocular diseases that can occur, diagnosis and treatment. This is just a study as recent as 2021. And just showing here when these free radicals, which showing you right here, the reactive oxygen species right here, and that's basically another word for free radicals, can quickly tip the scale because of our food sources that we have, the external, the endogenous way that the free radicals form. And you can see we have capillary death and damage. And we talked about glaucoma and the trabecular meshwork. This is a whole other study, in the retina ganglion cell apoptosis and diabetic retinopathy, the capillary damage, which I showed you in that OCT angiography. And now we're going to focus a little bit on macular degeneration. And one of the things I love pointing out whenever I do my OCT talks is we've gotten familiar. If we start down here, this is the choroid and the choriocapillaris moving to the RPE complex. And then this bright light right here, this hyperfluorescent line, this is what used to be the photoreceptor integrity line. The pill was also the inner and outer segment of the photoreceptors. And recently, it is the ellipsoid zone. And I was like, okay, the ellipsoid zone, it's changing its name. Why does it hyperfluoresce? Well, it's considered to be formed mainly by mitochondria. It's the mitochondria of the photoreceptors, and now we call it the ellipsoid zone. Right above it is the myoid zone, and that's where your endoplasmic reticulum takes place, and your Golgi apparatus that's out there whenever you're making new proteins, and you have the energy source right here of the mitochondria. And basically from this external limiting membrane all the way down to this anterior part, or this inner side of the RPE, that's the photoreceptor that we're looking at. And when this line starts to fade, it's not because it's a bad scan. It could be a bad scan, but most of the time you're seeing the oxidative stress and the cellular damage is what I want to point out. And Stephen mentioned, co-founder with Julie Rodman on OCT Connect, and this was put out by one of the docs that's on the site, and I got real excited about it as I was reading about interpretation of OCT and OCTA, and I was looking at all the different layers, and we can see that this again up here where I'm pointing is the ellipsoid zone, the mitochondria. But when I went down here and I was looking at the RP, I'm like, wow, it's two different colors. I see a red color, and that's the melanosomes of the RPE. But why is this pink? And I got really excited because it's the mitochondria of the RPE. So now we're talking about mitochondria of the RPE. We're talking mitochondria of the photoreceptor. We go back to the original slides when we're talking about aging, prevention, early detection, trying to prevent disease, and we want to support the mitochondria and all the studies that I showed before, where you can actually see with this imaging the mitochondria with an OCT. Now, we talked about the mitochondria, and we're talking about imaging, and we're trying to draw this all together, function and structure. I showed you some structure slides. Maculogics has done a great job of showing us how this disease process starts with the Brooks membrane being clean, as we can see in this picture. So this would be the choriocapillaris, this would be Brooks membrane, and this would be the RPE. And right here is where those mitochondria are hanging out. Now look what happens early in the disease that we cannot pick up on an OCT. That's the structural side of, the functional side of macular degeneration, is that the cholesterol starts to build up. That vitamin A cannot get across at high levels because it's being blocked by that kind of that oil slick that's building up, that cholesterol layer that's building up. You can see the stress that's already being put onto the RPE. You can imagine what's happening to those mitochondria. And as that inflammatory process continues to go on, you start to get an early drusen formation, and then we get something that's visible. So just imagine where we can intervene with, maybe a test like dark adaptation or the hand scanner, just to see if their carotenoid levels are low. And in dark adaptation, what we're measuring is the rod intercept line. And studies have shown that when dark adaptation is impaired, not that drusen formation, but just impaired, stress to those mitochondria, nutrients aren't able to get across, especially vitamin A, to change it over to rhodopsin. It's been shown that you can find macular degeneration up to 3 years earlier, and with a 91, or as it says here, 90.6 and 90.5 sensitivity. It means if you fail the test that you have the disease. Specificity, if you pass the test, you don't have the disease. A little reminder of sensitivity and specificity that's out there. So that's the functional side. We see oxidative stress on the OCT all the time. We see the findings of this chronic and low-grade inflammation. Maybe we just haven't been taught that way, but we see it, and that's what's happening here with these drusen, right? We just saw in those previous slides that we know that there's cholesterol building up in Brooks membrane. We're getting an inflammatory response. We have that chronic low-grade inflammation. We need to intervene. And the kicker with this slide here is AREDS 2 is not appropriate, right? It has to be intermediate because of the high doses that are out there. So we could quickly intervene here with a full retina supplement. That's something that has resveratrol, the quercetin, treating that outer retina, protecting that inner retina with that lutein and zeaxanthin that's in there. Here's a little bit more advanced oxidative stress cellular damage that's being that we can point out. And what I want to do is jump up here and just follow the mitochondria line across. And if you look, you can see that there's times where it fades. Now there's a blood vessel here blocking it. That's just a poor signal due to the blood vessel. But if you just go to the side of it, this does not look as bright as this. Here is cellular damage. Blood vessel, but if we follow this across, why is this fading? Cellular damage. This is cellular stress to the RPE. And if you just, to the mitochondria of that ellipsoid zone. And let's just follow it across. You could see it dims there, gets bright, definitely disappears here, becomes bright there, definitely disappears here. This is why the patient's vision starts to drop. If you're getting the mitochondria, if you're having mitochondria dying, this patient is setting themselves up. Look what's happening as we go across. We're getting a hyperreflective foci here, and this is more of a RPE scar. And you can see out here lots of cellular damage to those mitochondria. Soon we're going to be having vision loss for this patient because the powerhouse of those mitochondria, of that photoreceptors being the mitochondria, are starting to die off. Never good. So we talked about structure, we talked about function, and this is tonight's talk was about trying to tie it all together and using structure, function, and molecular, but gets a little confusing. Molecular, that means nutrition, right? We can see down there, and again, you're going to see this cartoon surface a few times. Hey, we need to be looking and maybe seeing and considering what these guys are offering. One of my favorite slides to present is this one here. And what we're looking at is a cell membrane of a cell. It could be any cell, right? It could be a mitochondria cell. It could be the cell membrane of any cell of the body. It could be in the brain. It could be in the heart. It could be in your eye. It could be in your retina. And we talk about that phospholipid bilayer membrane. And if we remember, the inside of it is fat loving. The outside is water loving. And this is what we when we take omegas, and we need to have good omega fats. We can have good omega 3s, good omega 6s, good omega 9s. That's like your avocados and that type of oil. That's what you're trying to keep healthy. That's why the vegetable oils aren't the best. You want to get into things that have walnuts, that have good oils, and avocados. And then you want to use a good supplement that's out there of a good fatty acid. And what you're doing is keeping this cell membrane pliable, flexible, ready to take in those antioxidants if they're available. And as you can see here, this one is not very well protected. I wouldn't want any of those free radicals coming down, because the free radicals are not going to hit, most likely, one of these antioxidants. It's going to steal it from the cell. It's going to bombard the cell, and then that's the cellular damage. But I think we all know that vitamin E is fat soluble, so this is how it embeds into the cell membrane. Vitamin C is water soluble. That's why it goes to the outside and to the inside. But what you want is that full network of antioxidants. And I just threw a few in here, like beta carotene, lutein, and lycopene. And now this is a cell that has its shields up, right? So when we use the scanner, when they scan low, and we're getting down to that molecular part where that blue light from that Raman resonance spectroscopy is going into the hand, and it's hitting the carotenoids. Carotenoids are yellow, blue light, yellow and blue make green, and it's measuring that green light coming out. You could see that there's not much yellow in this cell membrane, getting down to billionths of a particle, molecular. That's what we wanted to focus on tonight, this molecular side of this, to meet up with that structure and function. Blue light going into the hand, hitting this cell membrane. And if you have a high number, then this is what it would look like, because there's lots of yellows in there. And the yellow and blue would bounce back a lot of green. Hence, your score is up. Hence, you have protection. Now, lutein and zeaxanthin are certainly needed. There's a reason why in this picture here, from imaging lutein and zeaxanthin in human retina with confocal Raman microscopy, you can see that when we get down into the fovea and the foveola, that there is a reason. It's the third lens of the eye. It helps with nighttime vision. It helps with contrast sensitivity. It does give some protection to that outer retina, but it doesn't really go beyond too far, right? So what about the rest of the retina? What about the outer retina? That's why I like to focus on, if you look at this picture here, over here on this OCT, I don't really have the macula, but let's just pretend the macula is here, or the fovea is right here, because this whole thing is the macula, the fovea right here. But then what about out here in the inner retina? What about this whole outer retina? What about the rest of the retina? So I am a proponent of building up that macular pigment. Plenty of studies out there have shown, but I think we need to focus on the rest of the retina, that outer retina, with some other types of antioxidants in the full network. And again, here's just another image that I have of seeing where that macular pigment is. And if you just kind of come over here and see where that would translate into this OCT, we know that the disease is in the outer retina. We certainly want to protect that inner retina, but I like to treat and use a full comprehensive formula. This here is from Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity. I'm going to try and now show you some evidence out here on, carotenoids are important, but we also need polyphenols. And here's health benefits of polyphenols and carotenoid in age-related eye diseases. And if you just go down here to the bottom, and again, let me just show you. Quercetin I have underlined. I have resveratrol, and the carotenoids that we're familiar with, lutein, and zeaxanthin. And you can see here that there's possible synergistic effects when you start teaming these together that's out there. So here's one evidence. This is why you'll see me so big on resveratrol. Tons of literature out there supporting resveratrol. And resveratrol, this is in an Oncotarget magazine, 2018. Resveratrol can be applied in anti-aging actions by influencing the mitochondria environment and metabolic diseases by regulating the levels of some inflammatory mediators and cytokines. Now, how many times have we heard that word? Dry eye disease, cytokines, interleukins, that are all these pro-inflammatory. In resveratrol, is you can see how important it is. And then up here, furthermore, resveratrol maintains the vascular fitness through its antioxidant and anticoagulant activities. Other hand is relevant in blocking the formation of new blood vessels, inhibiting VEGF release. It's a natural VEGF that's out there. This is great for patients with diabetic retinopathy, patients with other types of oxidative stresses where the capillaries can be damaged. Another one would be hypertension, or maybe even cholesterol or dyslipidemia. And then really important with the macular degeneration and the wet side of that. And this is from another magazine. It was, I don't have it referenced here. I guess it didn't make the cut here. It must have got deleted, but it's from the Annuals of Nutrition. And it says here that because carotenoids appear to play a key role, dropping down here, measurement of carotenoids can impact clinical practice, and evaluating the macular pigment may be eventually become an integral part of the comprehensive ophthalmic eye care. And then it drops down to further in the article to say that the Raman resonance spectroscopy is one of the more accurate ways to be able to do that. And you can see here now why, again, I get excited about the Life Pack, a comprehensive formula formed by 75 scientists, 13 disciplines, getting the right balance, right? And of the vitamins, the minerals, and now, again, polyphenols, flavonoids, and carotenoids. Now, I will point out here that a lot of my colleagues will say, hey, Greg, there's only 1 milligram of lutein in here, and we hear about the 10-2 ratio all the time with the lutein, the zeaxanthin. And I don't want to take too much time, but when you do isolates, meaning that you're just doing lutein and zeaxanthin, you always have to get them at a higher dose, especially whenever you're, testing them and you want to see a good outcome. This is why if you have the whole team there of the quercetins and the resveratrols and the alpha lipoic acid and the carotenoid blend and the lycopene, and jumping over to the vitamins that we know that have an antioxidant, and then putting in those minerals, when you get that right mix, 1 milligram could be equivalent, to a 10 that's out there. So, people will scratch their head and go, oh, hey, it's only, 1 milligram in here. And, take 2 packs, you take one in the morning, one at night, you're only getting 2 milligrams a day. It's probably all you need when you have the rest of the team that's on board. Now, we want to talk about structure. We talked about structure. We talked about function. And I think what we lose a little bit is when we talk about what the scanner does, getting down to the cell membrane, hitting those carotenoids, we are really getting to the molecular level, the billionth, we're measuring billions of particles. And this was developed by the National Institutes of Health. And I think that's what really gravitated to me to this company, is that they really didn't create this instrument because of their nutraceuticals. What they did is they had a vision. The 3 pharmacists that formed this, that were working for Merck and Wyeth, what they had a vision to come out and make pharmaceutical grade nutraceuticals. Then they saw this technology and said, let's use that to see if our nutraceuticals, our supplements, are to what they are. And they could see that the scans go up and it's building up into the cell membrane that I showed you earlier. So the scanner, I love it. It's quick. It's a 30-second scan. It's portable. It's cost effective. You can recheck in 60 days. Why is that? Because skin turns over every 60 days. It's been shown that what's in the skin, the palm of the hand, we like to use that because it's less influenced by the environment. You can really use any of the skin of the body, but we like it's got a nice little fat pad there where we can get a good measurement. But skin turns over every 60 days. And it's been shown to be equivalent to blood, to be what, if you can do an M pod, you can get a good measurement to be equivalent to what says an M pod. But if someone was scoring low on a blood test and they went out and got a bullet and bought some, some blueberries and mixed them up and drank them for a week, you can influence the way your blood would respond. But the hand, it's like the hemoglobin A1C. You can't really influence it in a week. So that's what's really cool about it, is it's a 60-day measurement of where the patient's diet and health have been. So when you see these low scores, and I'm going to point right here at this purple, that's an A plus, and then you have blue being an A, then B, C, D, E. When I see this score here of 19,000 being in the red, it concerns me, right? This is that chronic low-grade burn, that inflammation. On that wheel, they can spin. Is it going to be pulmonary disease, cardiovascular disease? Could it be Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, arthritis? Is it going to be an eye condition like diabetic retinopathy or macular degeneration or potentially glaucoma over this long period of this chronic low-grade inflammation? Now, this 26,000, unfortunately, is where we see most patients come in, but I don't paint it that way when the patients come in. I say, good, I'm glad we measured you, because you know what? We can do something about this. We need to change your diet. We need to get you out of the aisles, quit eating some processed foods, get away from the lunch meats. Let's get you into some wholesome foods, but we can also supplement you with a good pharmaceutical grade nutraceutical, and you can get scores like this. This was just me the other day when I scored, and I'm very happy and pleased because I was in the orange when I first started. Change my diet, get on a good nutraceutical, and you can see you can get your score up. And really simple to do with the hand scanner with an iPad. So a lot of the docs that are out there and colleagues, they're always like, oh, is it really validated? So on and so forth. It's been validated on top of being validated to being revalidated, but it's always being challenged and checked. But you can see here that someone did a meta-analysis. Dr. Katie did a meta-analysis in 2017, checking the validity of the Pharmanex biophotonic scanner and the rationale for the nutraceutical and nutritional supplements that are out there. And it's a really good long read, but really supporting the scanner. And then over here, how the scanner, and there's correlation between macular, skin, and serum carotenoids. And I really, again, like it because the scanner was developed by the National Institutes of Health for macular degeneration and cancer research, and today it's still used in research. Now, ARVO has also validated. Everyone wants it validated, so we keep revalidating it, but this was in 2016 with the interrelationship between macular, skin, and serum, and you can see the authors there in May of 2016 basically jumping down and saying the objective hand scanner is better than a subjective, and I'm not going to read the names here. They're basically all M-POD devices. So, just basically saying that the skin resonance Raman spectroscopy of the skin carotenoids is a reasonable biomarker. It's a great measurement of the macular carotenoid pigments and correlates to the M-POD tests that are out there. So again, it's validated and on top validated and on top validated. So trust me, it's validated. That's out there. Now let's pull this all together. I'm going to be wrapping up here. Structure, function, and the molecular / nutrition. Let's just pull it all together here. So when it comes to nutrition, you want something that is high quality and safe. Again, you heard me say 75 scientists, 13 disciplines. It needs to be comprehensive. I'm not a big fan of isolates. Let's take this, let's take that, let's pigeonhole this. I like a whole big network that's out there, and it needs to be simple. And that's why we have the comprehensive formula Life Pack. We have an I formula, which is an AREDS formula with the safer zinc. And then on top of it, if you want to get into epigenetics, with the aging genes, you have age-locked youth, and these are all can be used with the scanner and see if the scores go up. Again, we need to keep it simple. It's got to be safe. I thought this was pretty neat. I was playing around with the PDR. Those that are at a computer right now, go to pdr.net, type into, hit, enter, get to the website, go down here to the PDR search, type in Pharm, PHARM, and you'll see that Pharmanex pops up with 3 or 4 of their products. It pops up with their G3 juice. It pops up with their Life Pack. It pops up with their T Green formula and their Rishi Max formula that's on there. So it's made the PDR, which to me is quite impressive. I've searched other nutraceuticals out there. I just can't find them in the PDR. And you can click on it and you can just read it just like any medication like Valtrex or Augmentin that's out there. So pretty cool that it's in the PDR. So we talked about dry eye and the oxidative stress. We talked about meibomian glands, mitochondria, the reactive oxygen species, and we can help by using something like marine omega in treating the dry eye. But I wouldn't stop there. There's a lot of other oxidative species going on, so you can supplement with Life Pack and help these patients out and help with that and strike through that chronic low-grade inflammation. We can strike through that chronic low-grade inflammation when we have the reactive oxygen species, which are endogenous, exogenous, and we can see all the issues that can happen in glaucoma, which we're seeing here, the changes to the cytoskeleton of the trabecular meshwork and all the things that are happening back at the retina ganglion cell and at the optic nerve layer. So we know that the retina ganglion cell is what's dying. We know the disease of the high pressures in the trabecular meshwork, and we can help and support glaucoma patients with something like Life Pack. And we saw the 64-year-old man with diabetes and having the oxidative stress, and we're focusing on, like resveratrols, but it would be basically everything. The carotenoids that are in Life Pack would support this inner and outer retina. The resveratrol, the vitamins, the whole team, the synergism that we get. This would be a great example of where we use Life Pack. And then when it comes down to treating like these drusen here, this is pretty cool. If you look at the dates here, September 29th is at the top. We have June 23rd, about 9 months different, right? See these tiny little drusen in this outer retina between these two kind of mitochondria layers, the mitochondria of the RPE, the mitochondria of the photoreceptor. Here, we wouldn't be able to use AREDS2 for the fact that it's not an intermediate drusen. Maybe even the Beckman classification, they would call this no AMD because they're less than 63 microns and no pigmentary changes. I think we need to change that nomenclature, because how can that be no AMD whenever we're seeing structural changes? But I like using something like Life Pack. Again, keep it simple. We want to get full retina. Inner retina, the macular pigments will be supplemented. We move to the outer retina, that ellipsoid zone, using the resveratrol and the polyphenols and the catechins and the flavonoids that are out there. And then remember where those mitochondria are of the RPE, giving that full retina support. And then maybe you could see drusen disappear. Now, I know drusen can disappear on their own, but I've never really seen them disappear like this early in the disease. And I'm really meticulous about making sure there's no trickery here. You could see it's the same cut that I was able to find here to show that these drusen are truly disappearing. And here's another one where from April 21st to just recently, I saw this patient on January 26th. You could see this big drusenoid PED, another drusenoid PED with this RPE scar. You could see the RPE scar here, and you could see that the drusen has disappeared. Well, and this one here is nearly almost resolved. That's here. And again, you could see I was very meticulous about getting into the same cut on this OCT to make sure there wasn't any trickery. Now, maybe this drusen would self-resolve, but I don't think it would have done this without the assistance of something like LifePak, giving that full comprehensive retina coverage and then helping it out with the low-grade zinc that is in this eye formula, because this drusen is definitely intermediate. And then now we could go to the AREDS formula. So do we have to wait till structure damage is there? No, this is a great example. This is a 53-year-old man. He comes in and he's just for an exam, but he reports that, hey, I want to get my eyes checked. My dad has macular degeneration. He's on his 43rd injection. And, this patient is 53 years old, is pre-diabetic. That's an oxidative stress. He's 20/20, but did everything. Retina's clear. OCT looks great. Passes dark adaptation. However, when we scan his hand, he shows up 26,000, which is right here. He's in that D level. We know that there's oxidative stress. I don't exhale until they hit the green, but I really exhale when they hit the blue. So we can see we have a little bit of work to do. And I said to this gentleman, I said, look, oxidative stress, chronic low burn, if we don't do anything, who knows what could happen over this next 12 years, drusen formation. But if you knew what I knew about this condition, I would probably get your score up. He's like, I'm all in, doc. So what did I go with? What's my favorite? Something that's comprehensive, in and out. And here we are. We have our LifePak for this patient. He wanted to do a little bit more. So we chatted about some of the other products, and we settled on something, since macular degeneration is about epigenetics out there, and this is an epigenetic formula. I decided to go with age-locked youth. We added in a few vitamin K2, D3. You could see here we added in some now EPA, DHA into this, some purple corn, picking up on one of the hottest antioxidants out there, astaxanthin, again, picking up on some lutein in this case, again, resveratrol, and decided just to track this patient and see what would happen. So I usually don't do this. Remember I told you about that 60-day scan? If you go back and you look, this scan was on 12/15/20. He was really nervous. He was excited. He had all this mixed bag of emotion. Can I come back in 2 weeks? And I was like, yeah, being this low, we could probably bump it up a little bit. So he was at 26,000 and he did go up to 33. And I said, okay, from what I know about this, it takes time to build up. You're not coming back for a month. And then a month later on these products, him working with his diet, watching what he's doing, he got a score up to 47,000. Now think about that cell membrane. Think about when I was animating that before. His shields are now up. Bring on some of those free radicals, and we can help protect that retina where it needs to be done. So this is my last slide that I just want to kind of wrap things up with, and thank everyone, and thanks Stephen for allowing me to participate tonight in talking about nutrition and eye care. And I hope that this was able to bring a connection between that function and that dark adaptation and structure that's out there with trabecular meshwork and OCT findings, what's happening at that cell membrane, that phospholipid, and how we want to keep it able to be penetrated with those fat soluble and protect those mitochondria out there, and how we have an easy way to measure with the scanner and to be able to intervene with pharmaceutical grade nutraceuticals out there that have a strong safety history behind them. So thank you very much for having me tonight, Stephen. And I believe Trevor will be coming up here. Trevor and Stephen, thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Greg, so much for everything that you shared tonight. And we're going to hear from Dr. Crabtree, who's been using this in his practice for about 4 years. And, what I want to do here is just take a second to talk a little bit about Pharmanex. They're really a much different supplement company than companies you may be familiar with. Their founder was the former director of chemistry for Merck for 15 years. The other founder developed the birth control pill. The third founder was a chief developer over at Wyeth. These scientists that started Pharmanex were leading drug discovery scientists that were experts in natural medicine to develop new medicine pharmaceuticals, and they realized the natural stuff was working better, and they decided to leave the drug world to really take a pharmaceutical approach to natural product development. And this company wasn't started by a couple of doctors that got together or a couple of business people that got together to launch a supplement line. They really were deeply integrated into drug discovery, looking at nutrition. So having a team of 75 scientists full time, there's not another brand out there that's even close to that. Being able to be the first company to get the approval to sponsor the U.S. Olympic team, being in the PDR, you really have a company that has a scientific background and research engine that completely separates themselves from other brands out there. And that's why I decided to go with PharmaNex to recommend it to people in my community, and why I've decided to teach other physicians about this, because the supplement market can be very confusing. It's not the company that spends the most on marketing or advertising or sponsoring that always has the best brands. So be careful of the marketing tactics and really look behind the curtain to see what kind of research engine, quality control, and labs that are being run by these companies. And PharmaNex, when I started to look behind the curtain, so to speak, really stood out. So this is really a missing piece in healthcare, especially in optometry, being able to measure these molecular changes and make an impact. And this program is a very simple program to implement. The test is very easy. The supplements have a money-back guarantee that you'll get a measurable improvement within 60 days, looking at the carotenoids. So you're really able to take this $50 billion supplement market and redirect a good portion of it to your practice, and add anywhere between 50 to 100,000 or more into your practice between the testing and the supplement sales, which are direct ship. There's no inventory needed, and it's all a cash business. So this is really the next new major advancement in optometry, is going into this world of nutrition and being able to do it better than the way it's being done currently. So Dr. Crabtree, I'm going to have you come off mute and show your face as well. And, you've been using this for a little bit. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and take a few minutes to share your experience.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore. And I want to thank Dr. Caldwell too. I've seen him speak on this before, and I feel like I learn something new every time I watch him. I think our colleagues owe key opinion leaders like Dr. Caldwell a great deal, because this is something that is just primed for our profession. This elevates our profession. It elevates our level of care, and really provides an opportunity for us that seldom comes along for any profession. Yes, I've been in practice 32 years. I've measured carotenoids for over 20 years. I used a subjective device for probably close to 15 years. It didn't work very well. Patients didn't care for it. The staff didn't care for it. And when I was at an Ocular Wellness and Nutrition Society meeting in St. Louis, it was about 6 years ago. And their next meeting is coming up next month. But I saw this device and I thought, I'm going to do my research and see if this is legit. And I did. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is 10 times better than what I'm doing now. So I said, I'll take 4 of them. And so I started using it in my office, and I was thrilled with that. The technology was so much better. And then as I started looking into the nutraceuticals and the quality of what this company offered, which has been covered tonight, I thought, this is just leaps and bounds ahead of what I had been doing. A lot of your eye formula companies come in and they want you to use their lutein and zeaxanthin and talk about AMD, and that's wonderful. But we're capable of so much more. And the more I learned about the quality of what they put out, as you've mentioned, Dr. Moore, the 75 full-time scientists being in the PDR, just the quality of what this company does is there's really not a close second. And then when I started looking at the products, certainly they had their Arids 2 formula with lower zinc, which is what we really need. But that Life Pack formula, there's so much science behind that, and not what it just means to ocular health, but with patients with cancer, diabetes, heart disease, dementia. I thought this is just wonderful. And now as the science is evolving and we're learning that the layers of the eye need more than carotenoids, they need the flavonoids, the quercetin, the resveratrol, and that everything that Life Pack has. And so I was thrilled with that, but I was also very happy to learn about, for instance, their omega-3 products. They had a couple of omega-3s, which are great, certainly for dry eye treatment. They have powders that are easily mixed with water for those that are vegetarians or can't swallow capsules. They have Junglemal's formula for children, 2 and older. So I went in that one instance from being able to treat maybe 3% of my patients with moderate to advanced AMD to being able to treat 100% of my patients, and not just talk about what carotenoids and antioxidants meant to ocular health, but what it means to our overall health. And so this was popular when I started several years ago, but since COVID, there's never been a time when I believe patients are more motivated to get healthy and stay healthy. And as far as a program is concerned, in 32 years that I've been in practice, to have something like this where the technology is superior to everything else out there, the nutraceuticals, as far as quality is concerned, there's no comparison. It costs next to nothing to get started. It elevates our level of care. It elevates our profession and generates revenue for doing the right thing. You just don't get that combination very often. And so I'm thrilled to be doing it. And I'm thrilled to see the way my colleagues are embracing this more and more every day. So I can't say enough good about it.
Great. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for being on tonight. Contact the person that invited you onto this webinar and let them know that you want to get started, or you'd want to schedule a call and learn more about it. If there's studies you'd like to read, if there's the financial side you want to go over, they can help you do that. If you don't know who your PharmaNext rep is, feel free to reach out to me, and I will be happy to find out who they are and connect you with them. So again, have a great evening, everybody. Thanks again, Greg and Trevor, for being on. Take care. Here's how you get started. Rather than investing $100,000 or more in the technology, the company has a lease program. Your investment's only $3,700. It's not even a startup or not even a capital expense. And what you're going to get is 300 scans, over $2,000 in product for you and your staff to try out. And we provide all the training and system. It's all turnkey. We coach you. We set up the calls. We hold your hand, answer your questions until this is streamlined in your practice. It's pretty easy to do. Most offices are up and running within the first couple days. And then we provide 1,000 patient brochures that are customized for you. Now, the scans are about $2 a piece. So we're going to give you 300 of them with this starter kit. And then the device is leased. It's $137 per month. That includes 50 additional scans per month. The technology and the software will be kept up to date and maintained by the company. So if anything goes wrong, if it breaks, new models come out, new software, include all of that so you don't have any unexpected expenses in the future. So it's a really simple program. And the maintenance on the device is just a month-to-month agreement. So you can cancel at any time. There's no obligations. There's no long-term contract. So if you want to click on that link to take the survey, that'll give us feedback. We'd love to hear what you thought about this. If you're interested in getting started, thanks again for joining, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.